Deseret News Rewind is presented by Heidemann and Associates. Call them now for a free consultation, 801-754-4240, or go to utah.law. Welcome in Deseret News Rewind. Dusty Litster and Dane Stewart, as always, presented by Heidemann and Associates.
That's right, Dusty, a full-service law firm, locations throughout the state of Utah, up and down the Wasatch Front. Don't worry, Southern Utah, we got you covered too. Free consultation available if you tell them Deseret News Rewind sent you, 801-754-4240.
Well, we're talking awards. It's time for awards. Those are brought to you by the Utah Army National Guard, and up to $20,000 in signing bonuses depending on the job that you need training on. Also, get you to take care of a tuition as well. And well, here we are at 6A. We want to talk about these ones, and we're going to go through Mr. Rewinds, who's our top player, our most outstanding player in the state, but not only that, offensive and defensive. And when you talk about offensive players in this state, it starts in one place. Corner Canyon. Thought I was going to throw it everyone, did you? Cole Hagan.
Yeah, I think he's number one, right?
Reigning offensive player of the year.
Undefeated as a starter. That's a pretty good qualification. One of the top passers in the state. Both passing yards and touchdowns. Also ran for over 1,000 yards. And by the way, he didn't play second half in most games this year. Cole Hagan's pretty good start for that.
And when you look for our next candidate, you don't have to look very far. Look to the right or left. Austin Bell.
Ring the bell, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how about this young man? And boy, he was so key for Corner Canyon in the early part of this year when it was looking like that offense was trying to kind of get its footing. Was key late. I mean, he had 230 yards rushing against American Fork in a win in the second half of the year. Obviously got hurt in the playoffs. We didn't get to see him in the championship, but the junior running back and what he was able to do to help provide support really made this offense dynamic for Corner Canyon. Austin Bell, very deserving as well.
Yeah, he's been absolutely spectacular. Let's go from another underclassman to another. The young man that led American Fork to the state championship game.
Yeah.
Maddox Madsen.
I mean, how about the year for Madsen? I think top 3 in passing yards in the state, and you talk about getting his team to the state championship, just a sophomore. And I know he had great targets and Downing and holding some of these other kids around him, but man, Maddox Madsen was a young man that it was tough to stop this year in that AF offense. A lot of dynamic down the field passing attack. They do a lot of creative things to get guys open, but for a first-year starter, sophomore, Madsen come and have the success he did. Big year and a big future ahead for him.
And if you think we're only staying in Region 4, we're not.
I got you covered.
Let's go up to Region 1, Bridger Hamlin out of Syracuse.
I mean, how about the Syracuse Titans? Great year for Syracuse this year. They got a big win in the playoffs over Pleasant Grove as well, largely due to Bridger Hamlin. The Region 1 champions coming from Syracuse. We didn't have that on our list. And you look at Bridger Hamlin, as tough as a quarterback to defend as there is in the state. Very multifunctional, can run the ball, can throw the ball really well. And that whole offense relied on Bridger Hamlin, and he was key to help Syracuse find success in the regular season and in the playoffs.
Oh, from offense, let's talk some defense.
Right.
Shall we? And this is a tough one. This is really hard because you got guys like Van Fillinger, you got guys like Jackson Light playing defense. They might not put up big stats, and that's kind of the hard thing we got to do here, but it's what we have to do. And you got to talk about the best defense in the state. Let's talk about one of its best players and one of the most productive players, Josh Wilson.
Well, Josh Wilson was an absolute beast this year, and you look at, I mean, even to the semifinals, had 15 tackles. I think he had a sack, a fumble recovery, all over the place for this Corner Canyon defense. Now, this is one of the tough things because we could have picked 3, 4, 5 guys off that Corner Canyon defense. It felt like Wilson was that guy week in, week out, linebacker, in on a lot of tackles, pressures, able to create turnovers, was a real key contributor, and is in no means a slight on any other defensive player from Corner Canyon. Josh Wilson was spectacular.
And of course, you can write him in too. We put 4 because it's all Twitter allows. So
yeah, blame Twitter, not
write
us.
him in. Yeah, you can come at me, whatever. Let's go Region 2 because I love Region 2. Jeff Bassa, young man out of Kearns.
Big year for Jeff Bassa. A young man created turnovers. He was also a roamer for that defense in Kearns. Region 2 champ, Region Kearns Cougars. Yeah. And Jeff Bassa, opportunity to go play D1. Phenomenal year this year for Kearns.
Now let's go to Region 3's Harriman Mustangs. Monacula Jr., young man from the Mustangs.
Boy, this guy was a bear up front to deal with. Very disruptor. Remember that game against Bingham, and he had a couple big plays for that Harriman defense. Getting their first win ever over the Miners, largely thanks to that defense. And, Kuna was as responsible as anybody else in that game and over the rest of the season for Harriman, which had a phenomenal year.
Well, let's go to one of our favorites of the last 2 years. Every interception from Lone Peak, it's always Nate Ritchie, even if it isn't Nate Ritchie. So, of course, he's in our Defensive Player of the Year category.
You know, really tough when you talk about Nate Ritchie. He contributes defensively, contributes offensively, contributes on special teams, does everything. When you look at where he really impacts games is on the defensive side. And you can go back to that Bishop Gorman game. Gorman finds early success. They make a defensive shift. Ritchie comes over on one of the best receivers and shuts him down the rest of the way. That's the kind of impact Nate Ritchie has. That's the kind of impact Nate Ritchie had this season for that Lone Peak defense. And it's one of the reasons why he's a candidate for multiple awards, including our 6A Defensive Player of the Year.
We've got other people that we maybe missed. Sure we did.
Yep.
Hit us up on Twitter. Don't need to get nasty about it.
Yeah.
We'll take in write-in ballots.
Right.
We only get 4 spots, and so how we try to whittle it down. So hit us up. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll have those awards coming out very, very soon. For Vince Francis and Dane Stewart, I'm Dusty Litster. Thanks for joining us and watching Deseret News Rewind Awards nominees right here on Deseret.com.